online?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Childers, would you please take the roll?
Representative Allemand? Representative Angelos?
Here.
Representative Haroldson?
Excused.
Representative Pendergraft?
Here.
Representative Sherwood?
Here.
Representative Smith?
Here.
Chairman Bear?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I think we're going to begin with House Bill 105. Ms. Cameron, is that correct? If you'd like to go ahead and proceed and sharing with us the bill details. And we've got a good crowd here. How many of you all are interested in testifying on this bill? If you could just raise your hands. Well, come on, don't be shy. You have to sit in that hard chair. You should at least want to speak. All right, a couple of them. All right. So with that, you can go into the detail we talked about before, please.
Good evening, Chairman Bear and members of the House Appropriations Committee. An exciting first day of session for sure. I'm Catherine Camerati, LSO Budget Fiscal, and I'm here to present on House Bill 105, the K-12 School Facilities Appropriations 2 bill. I have also provided the K-12 School Facilities Summary Sheet that you may recall during the marking up of the budget. And it appears that the committee would like me to walk through the longer version of my explanation.
Yes, please.
Great. So starting on page 1, this portion of the bill addresses the content of the bill, providing for appropriations, specifying conditions for expenditures, requiring reports, establishing a grant program for school facility safety and security projects, and requirements for the receipt of those grant funds, and it provides for an effective date. So that's page 1. Moving on to page 2, and these next few pages, these line out the effective dates of the appropriations from the Public School Foundation Program account, or the SFP. For example, if you're looking at line 12 under subsection J, amounts appropriated from the Public School Foundation Program account are for the period beginning July 1st, 2026 and end upon the project completion. Also, please note that appropriations throughout this bill, as denoted by an asterisk, are effective immediately and end upon project completion. I think for these first pages, the fiscal note is really helpful in this regard. So at the bottom of the fiscal note, if you were looking online, and I'll say it right here, it states any unexpended, unobligated funds appropriated for major maintenance, charter school leases, and modular buildings and leases shall revert to the School Foundation Program on June 30th, 2028. The funds appropriated under Section 1J, Roman numeral 3, or the charter school contingency as we know it, shall be separately accounted for, and the appropriation shall remain in effect and not lapse or revert at the end of the fiscal period, except upon further legislative action. The remaining unexpended, unobligated, appropriated funds shall revert to the Public School Foundation Program account upon completion of that project. So that's pages 2 through 5. With that being said, I'd like to skip to page 5. Starting on page 5, line 9, section J, Roman numeral 1, $31.7 million is appropriated to the School Facilities Commission and prescribed by the maximums on the bottom of page 5, lines 21 to page 6, line 19. So you can see all of the project amounts listed out, for example, and I don't think it is productive to go through everyone, but I certainly can. Line 21, Bighorn number 3, high school, $828,878. And again, you'll see that the asterisks mean that it's an effective immediate appropriation. Moving on to page 6, section J again. Numerat 2, for charter school leases, $6.3 million is appropriated to be distributed for charter school lease expenses for school year 2026 to 2027 and 2027 to 2008. And again, those are prescribed by the maximum starting on page 7, line 9, and ending on line 15. And as I noted previously, this subsection for Roman numeral 3 on line 18, this is that charter school contingency fund. These funds of 1.8 million, and I'm just rounding for convenience, this is for future charter school leasing obligations and shall only be expended for leasing expenses for charter schools for operation. Moving on to page 8, line 14, section J, numerat 4, 52,000 is appropriated for modular buildings and leases as prescribed on the page, lines 21 to 23. Moving on to page 9, line 3, section J5, 15.7 million is appropriated for the design of school building and facility projects as prescribed on lines 11 through 15. Line 18 of that same page, section 6, is for the construction of school building and facility projects. It's about 77.4 million as prescribed on page 10, lines 4 through 7. Line 10, section 7, 2.6 million is appropriated for the demolition projects as prescribed on lines 18 through 20. Line 23, section 8, onto page 11, appropriates 7.6 for unanticipated costs. And these are subject to the following, and I can easily break these out for you. 944,000 is for design projects. 6.5 million is for component level major maintenance and construction projects, and 157,000 is for demolition projects. The first JAC change occurs when you marked up the bill on line 21 with the addition of section 9, well, section J, Roman numeral 9. You can also see this change if you were wanting to look at your summary sheet within that document. And that's at the bottom of the main box on page 2. So this added supplemental appropriations for the construction and demolition of a transportation facility ancillary building in Campbell County School District Number 1, authorized under 2025 Wyoming Session Laws, Chapter 118, Section 1, G2A. And the appropriation is for $7.4 million, and this is effective immediately. This doesn't change the scope and design of the project, and it is the intent of the legislature that this appropriation and previous appropriations for this project be prioritized by the School Facilities Commission to ensure the expenditures for this project result in an adequate, efficient, and cost-effective project. I would also like to note about this project, it includes 6% for inflationary considerations. The next JAC change occurs on page 12 of the bill, and it creates section 2 in its entirety. And you can also see the change at the top of the summary sheet on page 2 in red. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Happy to answer them. The JAC adopted to reduce the K-12 school facility safety and security projects by 8 million school foundation program account funds to 2 million, which is appropriated to the School Facilities Commission for the design of security vestibules, and vehicles, barricades, and approved prioritized school district safety and security remedies. Page 13 provides the details of how the grant program will be established and how funds shall be distributed to districts upon application to the State Construction Department. This language was contemplated by the Select Committee, and no change was made to the language by the JAC, just the funding. Expenditure of these funds shall be reported by the School Facilities Commission to the Select Committee on School Facilities, the JAC, and the Governor, and it includes the request for funds necessary for construction and completion of school district safety and security needs. The last JAC change, so that's pages 12 through 13. The last JAC change occurs on page 14, section 3, for major maintenance payments. And this is not the component level major maintenance payments. You can see this on the first page of your summary sheet as well, towards the top of the K-12 school facilities box of your summary sheet. The JAC did not change the funding level for major maintenance, but just changed the location. Traditionally, major maintenance has been included in section 27 or the state construction department section of the budget bill. The JAC adopted for these funds to be included in this bill. Note that the 1.1 million as originally recommended is still effective immediate to address the budget deficit. And this appropriation shall not be transferred or expended for any other purposes, and unobligated unexpended funds shall revert on June 30th, 2028. Page 16 provides for the effective date, which is effective immediately. That concludes my comments on this presentation. I do have something to add later.
Okay, we'll keep you around then. Appreciate that coverage. Any questions? Okay, must have done a great job. We don't have any questions from the committee. I'm going to ask Chairman Landon to come forward and just share his comments. I know you're probably aware, Senator, that we do have an amendment to adjust some things on this bill. So we'd like to hear your thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. Appreciate the opportunity. And we've got experts behind me who can help with details. And I want to send a shout out to the Vice Chairman. I really have appreciated working with her even since our last meeting to affect some of the changes that I think are needed in school facilities. This has taken many different forms through the years. Sometimes it comes through the appropriations process. Sometimes it's a standalone bill. This year, I commend your efforts to put this together and to get it back up to the appropriations room, and it's all there. I would just say to the Appropriations Committee, this bill is probably one of the most well-vetted bills every year that we look at. It begins at the agency level and at the district level and works its way all the way up through a commission. And only after it passes muster in the commission does it come to the Select Committee on School Facilities. And we're usually pretty rough on that bill. And then it finally comes to the Appropriations Committee. And so, not very many bills do that. That's because I think we all know how important it is. I want to just deviate for a moment, Mr. Chairman, if I could spend just a minute to tell you that about a month ago, the state of Utah sent some representatives over, and we had an opportunity to visit with them. And they are so impressed with how Wyoming does business that they want to emulate what we do in school facilities. I'm kind of proud of that because we've worked very, very hard for a long time to put this process together. So that's just some 30,000-foot view type comments. I do think that we wanted as a select committee to put safety and security back on the radar screen for all of us to be thinking about. It's been a while since we made a major investment in that part of the world, and we need to keep up our efforts on that front. I think this is a good remedy that was landed on by the Vice Chairman. I think that we can certainly still get started on the safety and security front. And at the same time, that project up in Campbell County has been on the radar screen for a while. And we've got to get, I think, that facility right from the design stage on. That particular district has the most bus miles of any district in Wyoming. So it's an important facility. I'm going to stop there, Mr. Chairman. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Again, it was a pleasure to work with the Vice Chairman and that select committee.
Any questions or comments for the chairman? Senator, I'm just going to ask that you stick around so that just observe our work on those amendments. If there's any concerns, we can call you back in if we need to.
Appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Thank
All
you. Representative Riggins, would you care to opine on this bill? Yeah, I don't see any other elected officials, so I'm going to ask the director, Mr. Comey, to come forward and let the committee ask questions if they have any. And any comments you may have for us, you can go ahead and start.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Del McComey, I'm Director for the State Construction Department. Thank you for moving the bill forward. I think you're aware, because we've testified in the pre-joint appropriations committee meetings and then again watched while you worked the bill here earlier before the session. And it closely aligns with the Select Committee's original bill. And so we really don't have any items to address other than to stand for any questions you might have. And if you don't have anything at this particular moment, certainly we'll be in the room and can step to the plate if we need to.
Okay. Any questions for the director? Director, I have a question. I know oftentimes we have reversions that come back into your accounts that the legislature's given you authority to maintain so that you can meet emergency needs and those types of things. Can you give me just a 30,000-foot view where you sit right now with funds available for that are not obligated in your under your authority?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have already notified LSO, and that was prior to the budget sessions, when we met with you earlier in December, that we're turning back about $25 million at this point in time. We are, and that's kind of a standard practice on construction projects. So as we firm up construction projects and they're finished up, then we contact the district, make sure all the bills are paid, make sure there isn't anything that we're seeing out there. And then we revert those. And that used to be that was done once or twice a year. A few years ago, that was made to it was changed that effective immediately. So when we find that out, we're always reverting funds back and notifying this committee, the governor's office, and your LSO staff. As far as unused funds, right at this point in time, we've got, I'm going to guess somewhere in the neighborhood, if this bill passes, it'd be about $960 million worth of active construction design funds, those sort of things that would be ongoing. We're working through those processes for projects right now. So we have a number of projects. Let's just take the two big high school projects, Rock Springs and Campbell. They're on their design phase. So we have the construction money sitting there at this point in time. And is, again, just by normal process, if we have any funds remaining when those projects are completed, we go ahead and return those projects. One of the things that we do for the Select Committee every year in our commission is we come through and we analyze when we think projects, at what stage they are, and when those projects are going to be completed. So those larger projects, it might be 3 years. Some other projects that might only be a year. We're required to give a percentage breakdown of when those are going to be, those funds are going to be expended. So that's a larger report that's available, I believe, maybe to this committee amongst our big, thick, I think it was 200 some pages this year of reporting. So if you can go look back, it'll give you an idea of those ongoing funds as when we think those might be returned. We're looking at the 95 million right now. We're going through a number of Mercer projects or studies and looking at when those projects might be completed. And again, as happened in the 25 million, we had two large projects that we felt those Mercer studies, when they were completed, that we weren't going to use any of those or all of those funds for those projects. I made the decision rather than wait till the end of the project, because there was such large amounts and those projects were going to go to construction, that we just transfer part of those funds back immediately rather than wait till the end. And I think we'll probably see that on maybe another project or two, that we'll have the opportunity to turn those back more quickly rather than waiting till the end. But on our normal process, again, those two high school projects, as they move forward, those will probably be returned once those projects are completed. It's generally because they go through an audit process. The districts are required to audit all those funding, all their project requests and how they funded those to the contractor. You were generally at least a year out past completion of a project before we revert those funds.
Any questions for the director? Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Director. Shelby, it's good seeing you guys here. Question on page 12, as we're looking at the that section 2 and the finances for security, safety and security projects, the $2 million. Do you have any history on when this was kind of funded last, what that looks like? And because the conversation and an amendment, we've been talking about the amendment I'm looking at bringing is increasing that, because we have a fundamental right of protecting our children. I mean, that's a fundamental duty that we have to have. We're putting children into these facilities. We need to protect those children. And so can you talk to me just a little bit about what the history is of this and kind of what we've seen and what we see on the horizon as well, maybe?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll certainly address that. I know Shelby's a lot more schooled on it, so I'll keep mine at a fairly high level, but I think I can answer the question from that. If you need more details, I'll toss her under the bus. In 2000 or 2014, I believe, there was an initial trough of money. I think it was about 15 million. Or 9 million, excuse me, that was presented to the legislature. The legislature then said, and it was funded, the legislature said, however, before you spend those funds, you need to go out and do a safety and security study. So there was a study done on every school, what was needed by that particular building, that school, not just by district at that point in time. Then they started moving forward. There's another about $5 million or so that was given on top of that. So there was about 15 million. There was quite a few years involved in that and getting that spent down. Then there was, when I was previously director, I made a couple more requests. Those were not funded because not all of that money had been spent down. Now there was a difference. Some school districts had spent all their money down. Some had not spent their money down. But the legislature felt that until that money was spent down, they were going to hold off. Then the next funding troughs actually came through major maintenance. There was a 10% allowance for major maintenance funds, I think for maybe 3 bienniums, where the districts could either spend their major maintenance on their normal major maintenance, or they could put that towards their funding for security. I believe that might have been in the neighborhood of about, if you total those all up, was about 42 million or something. Yeah, 41,400,000. And the districts have spent that pretty much down. Some districts have spent all of their 10%. Some still have some left to spend. Then they could no longer do that after that 3 bienniums. So now we're looking at a set aside for school facility safety security. The discussion with the commission this year was to start with about a $9 or $10 million. We kind of worked through that, and our thoughts were is that about 2 million of that would go for security vestibules and bollards. One of the things that we saw this past year and a half touring schools is even though they might even have a vestibule, you could simply drive the car through the front of the vestibule because there's no bollards out in front. So we wanted to make that front door safety a priority. And then the additional 8 million that was in the original bill was to be spread amongst the districts because there was a bunch of concerns. Well, the select committee said, well, that sounded a little bit like a slush fund to us. We didn't have enough specificity in what that might be, where that might go. So between our second and our third meeting with the select committee on school facilities, we went out and asked all the districts to give us their number 1 and their number 2 priorities for safety funding. actually got a great response, probably one of the best responses we've got out of all the years that I can recall on asking the school districts for feedback when we go out with a kind of a Google request. And it came back, and I think, at about $38 million to fund each of the school districts' number 1 and 2 priorities for their buildings. There's some big asks in there when we talk about individual items that make up that. And that really has to do with our school districts over the year put in their, say, the Raptor system, where you come into the building, it does a scan, you give them your driver's license, whatever, it'll give a scan and do a background check. It also interlocks with all of their door systems around the district, those sort of things. Well, the software, many of those started back in that 15, 16 timeframe. It's 10 years old. As we all know, your software systems and those sort of things need updating. And that's really particularly in our larger districts here in Laramie 1, Campbell, Rock Springs. They have a lot of school buildings involved in that, in upgrading all of those door systems, lock, software, hardware needs that need to be updated just due to age. So that there's some big requests on an individual district just on those items, but that's
Mr.
really the
Chairman,
funding.
I'm going to pause you real quick, Mr. Chairman. Thank you,
Representative
Mr. Chairman. So Director, so the lock systems, those can't be done under major maintenance. They have to be done under the security umbrella? Or could those be brought in as a major maintenance ask?
Correct.
They can be, Mr. Chairman, because they're an existing system.
Thank you.
Further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you for being here and contributing to the conversation. Representative Connolly, I saw you sneak into the room. Did you have anything you'd like to add to this conversation about school facilities? Okay, well, thank you for being here. We appreciate people being in the chairs here. All right. Is there any other public comment? I think we have 2 people online, don't we? Let's go ahead and get those people brought in. And Ms. Camry, are you done, or did you have more that you wanted to add? Very good. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Ms. Childress?
Yes, I have promoted both Clark Coberly and Charlotte Reynolds.
All right, let's start with Mr. Coberly, please. Mr. Coberly, if you're online, welcome to the House Appropriations Committee. Please introduce yourself.
Mr. Chairman, he is not online yet, but Charlotte Reynolds is.
All right, Ms. Reynolds, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Charlotte Reynolds from Teton County School District, and I want to speak very briefly in support of House Bill 105. I specifically want to ask for your support of allocating the requested $2.8 million to pay for the design of the Jackson Hole High School addition. This project was identified as the most cost-effective remedy for the deficiencies at Jackson Hole High School. In addition to requesting your support for allocation of the funds, I would ask for the committee's support in releasing the funds immediately upon approval so that we may move forward with this project in a timely manner to avoid further delays on implementing the unanimously approved most cost-effective remedy study approved by SFC and the TCSD Board of Trustees. To address areas where the school does not meet the state school suitability criteria. I'd like to thank the team over at State Construction Department and School Facilities Division. Feel like we worked really well through that process that led to I think a project that will meet the needs of our school, but also be dollars well spent for the state and making sure that our school is, again, meets adequacy standards, is safe and appropriate learning environment for students. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with that, I stand for questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Reynolds. Are there any questions for Ms. Reynolds? All right, seeing none, we really appreciate your being here and giving us your thoughts.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Childress, do we have Mr. Coberly?
I have tried to promote him 2 times, but he has,
Okay.
oh, there, wait, now he's coming on.
Okay. Mr. Coberly, if you can hear me, please introduce yourself. Welcome to House Appropriations Committee. We look forward to hearing from you.
Good evening. I'm Clark Coberly, the Superintendent of Weston County School District, number 7 in Upton. And just briefly, I'd like to speak in full support of this appropriations bill. We have a component level funding project in it, and it's necessary for the work of our school district to have that continue to be in the appropriations. And we thank you for your support. Thank you.
Mr. Coberly, is that the boilers that we see on here? Is that what?
That
we're
is
talking about?
correct, sir. We're at a point where we're needing to get that taken care of at our high school. So
Okay, thank you.
thank
Any
you.
questions for Mr. Coberly? All right, we appreciate your being here and opining. Thank you. All right, is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and we'll go ahead and move forward on the bill. Committee, what's your pleasure? Move the bill. Seconded by Smith. And we've already been through the bill page by page, but I know we have a couple of amendments, so I'll just go section by section. And so we'll start with section 1. Which takes us all the way to page 12.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Angelos.
I would like to put an amendment on this on page 12, line 2 and 3. I want to amend the $7,420,000 to $2,650,000. If we could change that and write it out, Ms. Childers, and then put in the numerals as well. So just change that. And in discussing, the reason why I'm going to change that is in discussing with department and the district, they are all on board. This is just the finalized numbers. We were able to crunch numbers and come up with a better number for the finish of the Campbell County Transportation Facility. There's some other funds that will be available from other projects. And so this was able to be decreased and everybody's on board, so.
Okay, do I have a second? Seconded by Smith. Discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of Angelos' amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Any other motions on section 1? Seeing none, on to section 2. This will take us pretty well to the
Mr.
end.
Chairman.
Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On section 2, it would be page 12, line 17. I'd like to strike 2 million and insert 5 million. I think this will be a good placeholder to continue this process of safety and security projects with the understanding that every 2 years we come back and have these conversations. And if the need arises, we have the ability to continue to fund this, but this gives a little bit more liquidity to this account and gives the ability for schools to pursue safety and security in their facilities.
Okay, get a few more ballards built. All right. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Angelos. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Harrelson's motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Any other motions on section 2? Section 3 on page 14. And the effective date, section 4. Ms. Camry, did you have something you needed to add? Nope, your mic didn't quite stay on.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. I just wanted to mention for your consideration that the Senate introduced a very similar version of this bill, Senate File 60, and it was re-referred to travel. It contains really close. It's the Select Committee's version of this bill. You could either pick one bill or the other if you wished. You could come to a reconciliation, or you could put in effective language, making one effective if it goes into law, or the other ineffective.
Okay.
Just wanted to bring that up.
Okay. All right, committee. Is there any thoughts on this now that you've heard this? My guess is that there was a fear that we wouldn't get the job done. Just a suggestion to the committee, we can put language in here that refers to the other bill and just say that this bill will take precedent. So that the other bill, if this bill passes, the other bill will be null and void. I think we can do that, can't we, Ms. Kemery? Okay, second, do I have a second? Seconded by Pendergraph. Any discussion on this motion? This is Representative Smith's motion to add language that House Bill 105 takes precedent over Senate File 60. Okay. No further questions. All those in favor of Representative Smith's motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Any other motions or comments on House Bill 105? Seeing none, Ms. Childress, would you please take the roll call on House Bill 105 as amended?
Roll call vote, House Bill 105 do pass as amended. Representative Allemand.
Aye.
Representative Angelos.
Aye.
Representative Haroldson.
Aye.
Representative Pendergraph.
Aye.
Representative Sherwood.
Aye.
Representative Smith.
Aye.
Chairman Bear.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7-0.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Cameron. That was a job well done.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms.
And who
Childress,
will be carrying the bill on the floor?
I'm sorry.
Who will be carrying the bill on the floor?
This will be Representative Angelos, and I'm going to ask Speaker Pro Tem Haroldson to be backup for her to help her out with that. Okay, this is a pretty big bill.
Yep.
And I think because you're in construction, you're batting third. You're, okay? You're welcome. So your question's been answered, Ms. Childress? Okay. It's this kid's name. Forget his name. Let me read his name. Shoot.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Quilty, thank you for being here, and we're now on to House Bill 107. If you would go ahead and present the bill to us, please. And we're okay with you going into detail on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Today I'll be presenting House Bill 107, Local Government Distributions. The committee should have been provided a handout titled Local Government Distributions, and then in quotation marks and parentheses, Madden formula. So I'll be kind of walking through this bill side by side. So just wanted to provide some brief background on the history of local government direct distributions. The direct distribution model for local governments in Wyoming was first adopted in 2004. The framework for the modern version of the model was adopted during the 2016 budget session, though that has been amended from time to time. The legislature developed the model with a weight towards local governments, cities, towns, and counties that have lower tax bases or particularly low population. While the model does provide direct funding to all local governments, the current model is designed to provide more funding to local governments with less ability to generate tax revenue. The model is dynamic not only to each community's economic circumstances, but the taxable financial relationship to all other communities in the state. Now, the current iteration of the direct distribution model took effect July 1st of 2024 as 2024 Wyoming Session Law, Chapter 38, formerly House Enrolled Act 29. The legislature appropriated $146,250,000 for the biennium, or $73,125,000 per fiscal year from the general fund to the Office of State Lands and Investments. OSLI distributes shares to each county and municipality pursuant to the formula provided by the model. Now, going to 26 LSO 295, now House Bill 107. The first page really provides just a brief overview of the bill. The second page defines population as the defines population and also the source for where we should get the population to run our per capita calculations. This is the most recently reported federal decennial census as reported by the Economic Analysis Division. The second part of page 2 begins the change from the old legislatively determined appropriation into the transfer of 5.6% of sales and use tax from the previous fiscal year. Page 3 starts getting into the Madden formula, and this is going to coincide with slide 3 of your presentation. Now, this is really what I like to call the initial split of the funds. 2/3 of 89% plus 5.5%, totaling 64.83% goes to the county, or excuse me, to the municipalities, whereas 1/3 of 89% plus 5.5% or 35.17% goes to counties for distribution. The math is kind of detailed all throughout page 3. Page 4 establishes payment date or distribution dates. This is a change from previous iterations of the model where previously the distribution dates were August and January 15th. Now they are going to be October and March 15th. The next subsection I establishes the flat distribution, which you can see on slide 4. The flat distribution is $15,000 if a population is 35 or fewer, and $35,000 if a population is above 35. The next section establishes the proportional distribution. Now, the proportional distribution is popularly referred to as the Madden formula. And it's kind of where the entire formula is given that naming convention. That comes from a former chairman of the House Revenue Committee that was critical in creating this formula. Now, it's calculated using normalized, inverted, per capita sales and use taxes, per capita assessed valuations, and municipal population to determine each municipality's share of the distribution. Sales and use tax per capita are weighted at 75% and added to the weighted assessed value per capita. The reason they're weighted this way is because municipalities draw the bulk of their revenue from sales and use tax revenue as opposed to property or ad valorem taxes. That figure is then calculated by the normalized municipal population to determine each municipality's share of the proportional distribution. In fiscal year 2026, that total proportional distribution to municipalities was $41,613,000. The third component is referred to, for municipalities, is referred to as the revenue challenge distribution or the hardship distribution. Now, it sets aside 5% of the total distribution to municipalities, totaling $2.37 million in fiscal year 2026 for a special dispensation to qualifying municipalities. The amount to be distributed is calculated by adding per capita sales and use tax to the per capita amounts from the previous components. The lowest quartile or quarter of municipalities receiving the specified revenue is then determined. And for each municipality below that quartile, the difference between the lowest quartile and each municipality's value is multiplied by each municipality's population. Money is distributed on a pro rata basis of the total amount needed to reach the lowest quartile amount for all qualifying municipalities. In fiscal year 2026, 25 municipalities benefited from the revenue challenged distribution. Since the ranking of municipalities can and will change each year, which municipalities qualify for and how much they qualify for will also change. This does provide for a relatively smooth impact for qualifying and non-qualifying communities. Previous iterations of this model, we noticed what was called a cliff effect, where a certain threshold would be set and communities that barely met it would be drastically different than communities that barely qualified. Moving on to slide 5. And this is going to correspond with page 10 of the bill. This is where we begin discussing of the county portion of the calculations, beginning with the small assessed value adjustment. The small assessed value adjustment compares the amount of revenue 1 mil would generate in each county to a statewide standard of $300,000. Any county that falls below the threshold of the standard receives a payment to make up for the difference. That subsidy is then multiplied by 3 to provide additional support equivalent to 3 mils. In fiscal year 2026, this component provided a distribution of 1.636 million to 6 counties. The second component is very similar to the component we saw in the proportional distribution in the municipal section. It's, however, in contrast, it weights things slightly different. So the per capita assessed values are weighted at 76%, while per capita sales and use tax revenue is weighted at 24%. You'll notice this is almost exactly opposite of municipalities. The reason they're weighted this way is because counties draw the bulk of their revenues from ad valorem or property taxes as opposed to sales and use tax. In the county distribution formula, the cost of government is calculated from a regression to develop per capita costs for each county. And really what the cost of government is trying to get at is what it costs to maintain government in a given area. The normalized weighted sales tax is added to the normalized weighted assessed value and multiplied by the cost of government for each county. This determines each county's share of the distribution. The total proportional distribution to counties in fiscal year 2026 was 24.079 million. Now, covering some of the major changes from the bill to previous iterations, I think there's really 4 critical changes. So the first change is the codification. This legislation codifies the distributions and the formula under which they are calculated beginning in fiscal year 2027. The second large change is moving the source of funding from a legislatively determined biennial appropriation to being based on 5.6% of the previous fiscal year's total statewide sales and use taxes. The third change is a move to match what we did with using the previous fiscal years. We're matching the calculation timing for sales and use taxes to the new funding mechanism by using sales and use tax data from the immediately preceding fiscal year, which replaces the current 2-year delay seen in the model. And finally, as previously mentioned, it changes the dates of distribution of payments to cities, towns, and counties from August and January 15th to October and March 15th. And I stand for any questions the committee has.
Vice Chairman Pendergraft, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned the cliff effect, and when we were on page 4, I thought of that, and I thought if I was one of those little towns where I grew up and a newlywed, that my neighbors would be really encouraging me to increase the size of my family. So my question is, how many entities are sitting around there in the state at around 35 of that population? And perhaps somebody else has a better answer, but is this something to consider? Because it seems to me a pretty stark cliff right there.
Off the top of my head, I know there's at least one community that does qualify. Lost Springs has a population from 2020 of 6. So they would qualify for that difference. And really the reasoning behind it is it's only for the flat distribution. And so if you're below that threshold, it just means you're getting a little bit less in that flat distribution. Generally, those smaller communities don't make out as well in the proportional distribution either. But it really just depends. There are several communities that are under that population threshold though.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And I see Ms. Harpstreith may have an answer for later, so we'll hold that. In the history of this thing, has this ever created an issue? Has there been given consideration to another formula for that flat rate?
Mr. Quilty.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Pendergraft, I would have to look into the history in terms of just the flat distribution adjustments and whatnot. I know previous iterations of this model, it wasn't just the flat distribution that was causing that quote unquote cliff effect. It was other portions of it as well. I can do some research and get back to the committee on that.
Other questions? Speaker Pro Tem Haroldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for presentation on this. And just to clarify, and I believe this is the case, on the 35 and above, that 35,000, that's a bottom line till the Madden formula takes over and brings it above it, correct? So in other words, if you've got a community with 36, they're guaranteed 35,000. And that 35 may be in effect until we reach that point where the Madden formula takes over and swings it out of that 35 range, correct?
Mr. Quilty.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Haroldson, it's considered in that proportional distribution and the hardship distribution, especially the hardship. The flat distribution is really the first thing that is calculated. So if a community receives $35,000 because they're above the population of 35, they're going to stay at that $35,000 minimum. They may not get as much from the proportional distribution, or if they qualify or don't qualify for the hardship, but they would be guaranteed that flat distribution. The proportional wouldn't subtract from it.
Other questions? Okay. I think I'm satisfied with this presentation, so appreciate you covering that. Stick around in case we have other questions for you, but well done. All right. We're going to go ahead and open this up to public comment. I think, I know we've got WAM and WCCA. Anyone else in the room going to testify on this bill? Okay, and then we have two more online, and we do have the Revenue Department here. Is there any questions for the Revenue Department from the committee? So I can have them come on up. I think we're good. Thank you for being here. Stick around, please. Okay, please come forward. And I'm gonna have one of you go, and then I'm gonna go ahead to get one of the people online, then I'll come back to the other. Who would like to go first? Okay. Mr. Riemann, please go ahead and introduce yourself again, and thank you for being at House Appropriations tonight. We're trying to get right into work so we can take care of these things.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It's been an honor and pleasure to work with you throughout the legislative interim on this particular topic. I frankly want to prioritize commissioner input to you. And so I do have two commissioners that are joining us remotely, Goshen County Commissioner Michael McNamee and Washakie County Commissioner Terry Wolf. Of course, we have.
If you'd like, we can go ahead and start with them.
If you wouldn't mind, that would be great to have.
I think that'd be great. Okay, Ms. Childress, are you prepared? All right, please bring one of those two in. Who are we going to have first?
I have promoted both of them, so we'll see which one comes on first.
Don't everybody rush at once. Looking for Mr. McNamee or Mr. Wolf?
There's Mr. Wolf.
All right, Mr. Wolf, welcome to House Appropriations Committee. Please introduce yourself and tell us your thoughts on House Bill 107.
Good evening, Chairman Bear and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight on this bill. I've been a commissioner for quite a while here in Washakie County, and being one of the smaller counties in the state population-wise and valuation-wise, we've had to be very frugal over the years to make things work on our end and prioritize where we can, and things that we can't do, that we don't have money for, we try to plan for down the road on that. But in regards to the direct distribution funding, this funding is very critical for us to be able to utilize on things that we do on a day-to-day basis, whether it's road and bridge issues. For example, we've got a 5-person crew that takes care of the 241 miles of county roads that we have. And with our budget right now, I looked it up, $608,400 is what our budget is for county roads. That doesn't include the state county road fund monies. But when we're out there trying to do things, it's really hard to take care of the roads that we've got. And in fact, last summer we de-paved some roads, and we've got 3 to 4 more on the list that we're looking at de-paving just because we don't have the funds to pave them or anything like that. And we've got a significant issue on one road that is about a $10 million project, which we're trying to figure out long-term how we're going to do that over the years. But looking at this funding, just would encourage you folks as you're reviewing things. We're very appreciative in the monies you've given us, and we're hopeful that I think it's currently at 5.6% state share of the state sales and use tax. If that is able to be looked at to be increased there, that if it stays at that 5.6%, that's equivalent to 242,000 reduction on an annual basis for Washakie County, which that right there is almost 40% of our road and bridge budget there. Again, not counting the state and county road fund money. So it's something very important to us. Another thing that's been a real big issue for us funding is back in the COVID days there, our voluntary ambulance service was hit very hard to where we were at the point at times not be able to take calls. And so we had to come up with a solution to that, and went to a fully funded ambulance service and contracted with Cody Enterprise or Cody Regional out of Cody, and they've done a phenomenal job. But with how that's working for us, that costs us $35,000 a month, which is $420,000 a year, and we're trying to figure out how we can have a long-term sustainable way to fund that program. And just recently got done with some consultants that we hired, Safe Tech Solutions, that came here, and we did a study in the county on ways to fund that, and really it looks like the best way is either form a district or a 0.5-cent sales tax to help fund that. And in the times we're in right now with reduction in property taxes, it's a concern on how we're going to make things work, because even though ambulance service isn't an essential service, we consider it locally as essential, and our constituents it's a very important asset for them to have. So again, I just encourage you folks as you're looking at that, if there's any questions that we as commissioners around the state can help provide answers to on how we're trying to make ends meet on our end, we'd be happy to provide any information we can. So I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Wolf. Questions for Commissioner? Commissioner, I want to say this. First of all, this committee's worked pretty hard on a bill that hopefully you'll see be successful this session for the Rural Health Transformation Fund. And I just want to say help is on the way when it comes to your ambulance service. And several years ago, I worked on a bill for air ambulance, because I know that your county was using air ambulance to try to provide ambulatory services for your county. And I'd just like to ask, are you still doing that? And is that working out? Because there were problems, and I think we resolved some of those problems with that bill back in 2021.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we still have that membership, and that's probably been the most complimented thing that we've had when I talk to folks here. They're very appreciative of that membership, and there's no balance bill that comes back to the patient. And one of the things that we're looking at, and it was talked about during the study we did with the ambulance services, is how we can make that part of, if we went with a 1-cent sales tax, or a 0.5 cent, to be able to fund the membership along with the ambulance, and also a sinking fund of sorts to help with trucks for the Warland and Tent Sleep ambulances too. So yes, we're staying on top of that, and people have been very content.
Very good. All right. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Childress, do we have Mr. McNamee?
I have requested him to be promoted, but he has not accepted the invitation.
If he does, will you please get our attention, and we'll bring him right into the discussion.
I will.
Jeremiah, Mr. Riemann?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that he's having some technical difficulties, so hopefully we'll be able to get him
We can
here.
probably spend some more money on broadband to help him out with that. So.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad that Mr. Wolf could join us. He's being very modest. He is the longest serving, currently serving county commissioner in the state of Wyoming. He started when he was in his teens, but he is a great resource. Mr. Chairman, you heard the commissioner talk. We do want to continue to work with you to prioritize a couple of issues. One of those is around that percentage. You know, that's of interest to us to see that move up. The other one would be that those intent permit provisions at the back end of the bill. And I know that you might look at those and say that they're super reasonable and appropriate to put into something like this, but I just maybe use one example of where that can go a little bit awry. I'll just use Niobrara County. About 4 or 5 years ago, Niobrara County, for the very first time, began offering its employees health insurance. It's only for the employee, it's not for their family, and super proud of them for being able to get to that place where they could offer it. With that provision at the back end that they can't use this for added benefits or other pay, this was one stumbling block for them. They had to find other resources in a community that already is rather hamstrung in terms of the revenue that it can generate. So I would just ask that you take a little bit of care and attention to that. Certainly, you know, bigger guys probably don't, that's not a stumbling block for them, but for those little guys, it can be as they try and reward their employees and properly pay them. So with that, Mr. Chairman, again, appreciate the dialogue that we've had, appreciate your support, and look forward to continuing to work with you on this.
Okay, any questions for the agency? Or is that not the agency, but the association? Okay, well, thank you for being here. We'll keep Mr. McNamara available if he can get his internet working. We'll get him an opportunity to speak. Ms. Harpstreet.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ashley Harpstreet, Executive Director of Wyoming Association of Municipalities. I too would just like to echo our support and appreciation of this committee really working and digging in to provide sustainable and reliable funding for our communities. As far as the question earlier of municipalities under the size of 35, you do have 2 in the state, Lost Springs at 6 people and Van Tassel at 22.
Okay, all right, any questions? I have a comment, and I appreciate your representing your communities and our communities. That's important that we hear from you. You guys have done a great job of being a voice for them. I want to address this issue of these details that are concerns, and I totally understand those concerns. My concern is getting this across the finish line, and I worry that I've seen the direct distribution debate go. And I'm concerned that as we start tweaking a lot of things, that the mindset will be that this is getting out of control and that we'll lose the bill entirely. So I just caution you pushing too hard on too many changes, but I know there's going to be some coming. So let's just hope we can keep it moving forward. I think this is going to be a win-win for small communities, for all the counties, and for the state government as well. I mean, this bill, the direct distribution takes up a lot of legislative time, and sometimes it's just a bloodbath, and I'm not sure that it really accomplishes what that bloodbath doesn't really change things a great deal. So just want to work with you guys and try to get this thing across the finish line. Appreciate your work on it. All right, thank you. Anyone else in the crowd? All right, with that, we'll close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure? Okay, work moved by Smith, seconded by Haroldson. All right, we'll go ahead and work through this bill page by page. All right, any changes on page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Page 4? Page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, and page 14. Any comments on the bill? Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I'm excited to see as this moves through the process, what that looks like. Obviously, I think the bodies are going to decide what that percentage number is, and that needs to be done on the floor. Ultimately, we want to be able to provide that guaranteed understanding where it isn't the roll of the dice every 2 years of if this is going to happen again, if this is going to come again. So I think this is a great move in that direction. I too, when we had our first meeting on this, I was like, well, maybe we could touch the Madden formula. And then the more I've looked at the Madden formula, I thought maybe we shouldn't touch the Madden formula. So I would just really challenge to the body listening and to everyone involved. I think the more we meddle with the Madden formula, the more opportunity we have to kill the bill. So I think at the end of the day, I think the conversation really comes down to how do we work on that percentage? What's the right percentage? And I think a lot of that also has to do with what other bills come through the process in the next couple of weeks. So look forward to that conversation as we move forward.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Ms. Childers, please take the roll call on House Bill 107.
Roll call vote, House Bill 107 do pass. Representative Allemand?
Aye.
Representative Angelos?
Aye.
Representative Haroldson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Representative Smith?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, 7-I.
Okay, with that, I'd like to ask the committee to stick around. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting, but I'd like to have a discussion with, Ms. Childers.
Who will be presenting on the floor?
I think we'll go with Speaker Pro Tem Haroldson on this bill.
Thank
And do I
you.
have a volunteer to back him up? Representative Smith, Representative Sherwood, would you like to back those two up? Okay, so those three. Thank you. Appreciate you catching me, not running off without getting that done. All right, with that, we are adjourned. And Colonel, if you could come forward, please, just like to have a